There are so many great talents at UFC 248 Adesanya versus Romero this weekend, and I made a video on some of them, but I haven't been able to expose every amount of talent on the card. There's a bunch of guys on the card this weekend flying under the radar, and this is my fighters to look out for at UFC 248, beginning with the one that I know everyone thought I was going to do. I've made videos on a bunch of guys, haven't been able to make them on some of these fights, but Madsen, the Olympian himself, makes his return to the octagon, and I'm looking forward to it. He takes on Austin Hubbard, who was the former LFA champion, and I thought he was coming off 2 losses in a row. Turns out he's not. He got a win over Kyle Prepelec, which makes this fight a little bit more interesting for me. Apparently the UFC schedule has things wrong. Either way, I like the fight. This is a very good one. Now, Marco Madsen has someone coming off a win in the UFC. And listen, a loss to Davy Ramos by decision. I mean, Davy Ramos for the longest time was on a massive streak until he met Islam Makhachev. Like, that's nothing to be ashamed about. You know, I like Austin Hubbard. I think he has a very good chance of winning this one. I do believe that Marco Madsen, the Olympian himself, is going to completely steamroll Austin Hubbard. I don't think he's seen grappling like this. And Marco Madsen has fought some tough guys, because when you come into the MMA world with a name for yourself, and we've seen this with Aaron Pico, guys like Marco Madsen, who are known for their accomplishments outside of MMA, that then come to MMA, you don't get the chance to fight cans. No can who's just beginning their career is going to want to risk a fight against an Olympian. It's just not going to happen. You're going to have to jump up in competition, which is why by the time that Marco Madsen was 3-0, he fought a guy who was 8-2. You know, then he fought a guy when he was 6-0 who was 12-4. Then when he was 8-0, came into the UFC, fought another guy 12-4. I feel like he's going to pass with flying colours against Austin Hubbard. I like Austin Hubbard as an opponent, LFA champion, as I said before. Very good fighter. I just don't think he's good enough to beat Marco Madsen. I feel like Marco Madsen's coming in with something to prove in his old age, 35 years young, wants to make the most of his youth. I don't know if I can quite call it youth, to be honest with you, but I guess we're going to go with youth. He's still got some very small amount of youth left in his body, I'm sure. So he's going to look to harness that and get as many wins as he possibly can. Listen, the UFC gave him the co-main event on a fight night in Copenhagen, in his hometown. You know they believe in him as a hype train. And I think I believe in him too. Undefeated, I think he's going to go out there and finish Austin Hubbard in the first round. I'm looking forward to that fight, because if he beats Austin Hubbard, now we can talk about jumping him up in competition. Maybe he can take on a guy coming off a few wins in the UFC. Maybe we can just give him to Luis Pena. Who knows what we're going to do? Maybe Lando Venata wants to try his luck. I doubt it, but Marco Madsen's the monster of the division right now. I'm looking forward to see how far he can go. I would like to see him stay more active. So if he does win this one, listen, if you're winning by first round TKO, get back in there 3 months later, Marco Madsen. You're 35, man. You know, like, it's nearly over, and you've just got here. So just, like, stay active. See if you... Listen, you've got 2 good years, I reckon. 3 good years, maybe, if you keep winning. Let's try and get 7 fights a year. It's not that difficult. Let's do it. 7 fights a year for Marco Madsen. That's what I want to see next. But a great fight. Moving on to my second most anticipated fight on the card. Rodolfo Viera versus Saparbeg Safarov. I'm looking forward to it. Rodolfo Viera, 4-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. 7-time World Cup winner. I like this guy a lot. He came into the UFC, beat Oscar Piakota, who was 11-1, another beast coming into the UFC. Did a very good job in doing so. Absolutely destroyed him and finished him in the second round. And again, this is another case of a guy who brings talents from another side of MMA to the MMA world. Everyone's heard of him. So by the time that Rodolfo Viera was 4-0, you may be wondering to yourself, this guy's 6-0. How is he in the UFC already? By the time he was 4-0, he fought Vitaly Nemchinov, who was 10-0. Then he fought a guy who was 11-1 when he came into the UFC. When he was 3-0, he fought a guy who was 4-1. These guys who have credentials that then bring it to the game of MMA, they get avoided like the plague from these guys trying to build their resumes. Only monsters look to take them, which is why he has to take on a guy who's 10-0 when he's 4-0. I like Rodolfo Viera. Saparbeg Safarov is a very good fighter. I'm telling you guys, a little bit of a can crusher. I like the whole Dagestani monsters thing. Like, that's a good myth, but some of them aren't. And I feel like Saparbeg Safarov maybe isn't one of them. Lost to Tyson Pedro by Kimura. That worries me. Lost to Jan Vellante by TKO. That really fucking worries me if you're going to be some kind of hot prospect. He's been out of the cage. He's been very inactive recently. He's had 4 cancelled bouts since 2016. Like, he's in and out of the game. I feel like Rodolfo Viera is going to go out there and completely maul him. It will be a great win for Rodolfo Viera to get if he can get it. I'm just looking at Sapabek Safarov's record. I mean, he fought a guy who's 25-10, 33-30. Like, this is just not the best records in the world, if I'm honest with you. But, you know, who cares? I think Rodolfo Viera is going to go out there and submit him in the second round. Listen, if Tyson Pedro can take you down and Kimura you in the first fucking round, the 4-time Brazilian world champion, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion, he's not just the Brazilian champion of the world, but I think he's going to go out there and completely destroy him in the first round, and I look forward to it. This is a big card. If we can keep these undefeated guys undefeated, we're going to have a fun night ahead of us. I don't even care what happens with the main card. I don't care that we lost Jared Cannonier, Robert Whittaker anymore. I don't care that we lost Edmund Shabazian versus Derek Brunson. I've already forgotten about it almost. I don't care. These are the young talents we need to see. They're not even young, first of all. They're both very fucking old, so these are the worst guys to bring up as an example. However, they're new on the scene. They're fresh blood. Jimmy Crute is 24 today. Send him a tweet. Why did I read that out, man? Why is that there? Don't tell me fighters' birthdays. But happy birthday, Jimmy Crute, I guess. What was I saying? Oh yeah, loads of undefeated talent. Let's hope they stay undefeated because undefeated means and equals hype. We've also got Sean O'Malley undefeated on the card as well. I'm looking forward to it. Moving on to my next fight on the card. Is it going to be Deron Winn and Gerald Meerschaert? No, it's not. Shocker. I'm coming out of left field with a curveball. I'm taking you guys' attention. Your guys' attention. To Jamall Emmers versus Giga Chikadze. I'm looking forward to this one. It got recently added to the card. Having trouble speaking all of a sudden for no reason. But Jamall Emmers versus Giga Chikadze. That was such a difficult word. It fucked up my speech afterwards. Anyway. Chikadze. I'm looking forward to this one. Jamall Emmers is a beast outside of the UFC. I believe he's, what is he, 4th in the United States that isn't in the UFC yet? That's good. He's number 2 in California, number 1 in Nevada. I don't know what that means. Number 2 in United States West. These are good things to have, to be honest with you. Those are some high-ranking things. And he also has a big win on his record over none other than Corey Sandhagen. You might not know that. He has another win over Chris Avila, but then again, who doesn't? You know, who doesn't have a win over Chris Avila? Chris Avila is absolute fucking trash, by the way. I'm sorry, I just have to take some time out of the video to explain to you that Chris Avila is such a fucking fake guy. He's the biggest Nate Diaz wannabe I've ever seen in my life, and he's trash. Anyway, back to this video that I'm doing right now. Now that we've finished abusing Chris Avila. Corey Sandhagen. A big win over him in his career. And listen, Jamall Emmers has fought the who's who around the world. Beat Rafael Barboza as well, who was 12-2. Before that, he beat a guy who was 8-1. Then 11-5. He's beat a guy 15-6, 5-0, 15-5, 7-1, 9-3. Like, these records of the guys that he's facing. He's fought Tom competition. And he's 17-4. He's in his prime right now. I feel as though he's going to come out here and get a big win over Giga Chikadze. I really do. I like Giga Chikadze. The biggest can crusher. The biggest can crusher. Sapabek Safarov was a little bit of a can crusher. But Giga Chikadze, I swear to fucking God, he fought a guy who was 2-31. That is unheard of. When he was 5-2, he took a fight against a guy who was 20... Sorry, not 20. Who was 2-31. That is fucking bonkers. How is that allowed to happen? Jesus Christ. Before that, his first... Oh my God, this guy's... Everyone look at Giga Chikadze, please. I'm getting hyper right now because this guy is the can crusher of all can crushers. He comes into his career in MMA and loses his first fight to a guy who's 4-1. So instead of just thinking, alright, maybe I should take a guy who's only 2-1, he just goes the opposite direction and says, I'm not fighting anyone who isn't complete trash. So he beats a guy making their debut, going 1-1. Then he fights a guy who's 1-10 by first round KO, 10 seconds in. And he thinks that wasn't quite easy enough. So then he takes on a guy who's 0-13 in Julian Hernandez and finishes him in the first round. Then he fights another guy who's 0-1. Then another guy who's making their debut. Then a guy who's 2-31. Loses to a guy who's 10-3, by the way. I just feel like throughout his oh my God, to get into the UFC, he fought a guy who was 0-1. Why is he in the UFC? I don't understand. I know he's got a kickboxing resume, but Jesus Christ, man. This is utter dog shit of a... Listen to these records of the guys that he's beaten. 0-0, 1-10, 0-13, 0-1, 0-0, 2-31, 0-1, 10-7 over Brandon Davis by split decision. What do I do with this? I don't know what... I hope he loses now. I haven't really paid this much attention to Giga Chikadze. That is a fucking difficult name. Giga Chikadze's record. But I'm looking at it right now and I feel sick. I feel fucking sick. Outside of the UFC, his opponents had a combined record of... It's a lot of numbers and I don't want to actually count them up because it's very difficult math. 44. Oh, fuck, I'm on the spot now. 45. Ah, fuck, I'm not really too good at maths, to be honest. Something terrible, like 3 and 50, I'm guessing. I'm not going to count up these fucking numbers, there's too many. Either way, he's fucking the can crusher of all can crushers, and Jamall Emmers is a monster. 17-4, beat a bunch of guys, stays active as well, knows that he still wants to get back into the UFC. He could have been in the UFC, but he lost on the Tuesday Night Contender Series in front of Dana White by KO. In an upset, kind of, because he was the favourite coming in against Julian Erosa, who was 21-5 at the time. So, it's tough for Jamall Emmers, but he's worked his way back up on a 4-fight win streak. Got this one on short notice. I feel as though he's going to whoop up on Giga Chikadze and maybe finish him in the second or first round KO by Jamall Emmers, and I'm looking forward to it as well. And then he'll maybe establish himself in the featherweight division to take on guys like Sean Woodson or Herbert Burns, who both desperately need opponents right now and are both also 1-0 in the UFC. I look forward to seeing where things can go with all of these guys. So to sum up, look out for Marco Madsen by first round finish, Rodolfo Viera by first round finish, and Jamall Emmers by first round finish. If you want to make a parlay, make it now. This is the one I'm looking for. The first round finish sweep on all the prelims. Marco Madsen, Rodolfo Viera, Jamall Emmers. Do it right now. I promise you won't be sorry. Goodbye. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button there. I'm spitting everywhere. See you later. Yeah. Jamall Emmers is going to win, like, brutally by first round KO. See it already. It's going to be the most vicious one I've ever seen in my life. Goodbye.